I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight to the Village of Glendale Heights Plan Commission meeting for December 15, 2020. Donna, would you please call the roll at 7:01? Hello? No response.
Hang on one second. Yeah, they keep going to unmute for some reason.
Okay. Commissioner Barry?
Here.
Commissioner Brule?
Here.
Commissioner Caswick?
Here.
Commissioner Foss?
Here.
Commissioner Macias?
Excused.
Commissioner Reimer?
Here.
Chairman Ristich?
Here. Before we begin, I need to bring the attention to all those participating tonight, including the Plan Commission members.
Bob, is Bob
Can't hear you, Bob.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Bob.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
No. Please sit down.
Try again.
Can you hear me now?
No.
You have to go to the bathroom, dude. You have to go to the bathroom. All right, well, just please.
Anything change over there? Any of the settings? Yeah, we can hear you just fine before. Oh, hang on. All right, I'm asking.
You muted?
Yeah, I think you muted by mistake. Now unmute again.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bob, I can hear you.
I can't hear you, Bob.
Now you can't hear you.
What are you doing?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a roll call. We have a quorum. Before we get to tonight's meeting, let me read the following. The Governor of the State of Illinois has declared a gubernatorial.
Bob, I don't think you're saying
I
anything.
can barely hear you, Bob.
Is it my time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's in and out.
Yeah.
It's not, is it?
You going up, Tommy? Tommy's running upstairs to bring him a new earpiece.
You think that's it?
No.
I mean, I can hear you now.
I'm having a hard time hearing anybody. This is Chester. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you,
Oh.
Chester.
Okay, thank you.
Same earbud you used last time.
You have a microphone on it.
If that doesn't.
Sounds like someone has their TV on in the background. Can you turn that down or mute it entirely?
That's me. I'll get it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, very good. Let's begin again. For the Planning Commission members and those from the public that participate tonight's meeting, please understand the following. The Governor of the State of Illinois has declared a gubernatorial disaster proclamation in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, restricting individuals to gatherings of 10 persons or less, and all of Village of Glendale Heights is covered by the disaster area. In light of the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak, the village president of Village of Glendale Heights and the chairman of the Plan Commission have determined that an in-person meeting for December 15, 2020 Plan Commission public hearing is not practical or prudent in light of the disaster. All Plan Commission members participating in the December 15, 2020 Plan Commission public hearing, wherever their physical location shall be verified and determined that they can hear one another and can hear all discussion and testimony during the meeting. Signed, Linda Jackson, Village President of the Village of Glendale Heights, and Robert Ristich, Plan Commission Chairman of the Village of Glendale Heights, December 15, 2020. Okay, proceeding with the following. Item number 2 on the agenda would be a consideration of our presentation of the Plan Commission minutes of our regular meeting of December 8, 2020. Plan Commission, if you had a chance to look at those minutes, you want to make any corrections, revisions, or any comment regarding those minutes, please do so. If not, a motion to accept will be in order.
I
So
motion
moved.
to approve the meeting minutes.
There's a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion regarding that motion?
We'll need to take
There
a
being
roll
no-
call,
That's correct.
okay? Commissioner Bari?
Okay,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruhl?
Yes.
Commissioner Caswick?
Yes.
Commissioner Foss?
Yes.
Commissioner Reimer?
Yes.
Thank you.
the motion's adopted. Item number 3, committee reports. I'm aware of none. Communications, Plan Commission Committee of the Whole meeting was canceled. Liaison to the village board.
No report.
All right. Liaison to the DuPage County Zoning Board of Appeals.
No report.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Excuse me, Chairman Ristich, if I may, before we get started on the presentation, if I may take a
oh,
moment.
yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware, as I had previously mentioned, this is being recorded. Additionally, for this evening, the applicant will be making his presentation, and then the chairman will follow the standard procedure of having any questions from Plan Commission members. If you do have questions, please raise your hand virtually and we'll call on you. Similarly, when it comes time for public questions or comments, if you would please raise your hand virtually. Mike Kroll will indicate each person on the list and see if anybody has any questions or comments. And then we will have all questions asked. And then the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond to all questions at one time. So in the essence of efficiency and trying to make sure everybody has an opportunity, we're going to get all the questions together, then provide one response similarly. And then if you would be so kind as to mute while you are not speaking and minimize external noises, we would appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okay, let me set the final item on the agenda. Again, this is a public hearing. And because it's a public hearing, those people participating from the public and petitioners, representatives, so forth, will need to be sworn in for the record. So when you are going to address the Plan Commission virtually, we will ask you to raise your right hand and we'll proceed with the swearing in process. Prior to acknowledging the presence of the petitioner, I'd like to, for the Plan Commission, Joanne, to give them an overview as to what we'll be covering tonight. The public hearing regards an application by the petitioner regarding the location of 5585 West Army Trail Road. In the proposal, the petitioner, ML Realty Partners, intends to purchase over 20 acres of land on the south side of Army Trail at Cavalry Drive and develop 2 new
We're
buildings.
gonna have to cut the top off.
ML Realty Partners is a contract purchaser of all 11 parcels within the subject project area. The 4 different landowners are currently in their due diligence period working for its closing first quarter of 2021. ML Realty Partners is looking to obtain the Cavalry Drive right-of-way, both from the village of Glendale Heights and the village of Bloomingdale. Upon closing on the properties, ML Realty Partners seeks to annex the north end of Cavalry Drive, rezone all parcels to the Business Park District, obtain a conditional use for planned use development, and subdivide all parcels into 2 lots for the purpose of developing two speculative flex buildings. Okay, so what we have here for the Plan Commission We'll be considering 3 applications here. One, to rezone the 11 total properties into the business park district. Right now, it's in a holding zoning application, AE agriculture, pending the proposal and acceptance into the business park district. So that would be the first motion. Second motion would be to consider a plat of subdivision to approve to consolidate the 11 parcels into 2 parcels. And finally, consideration to allow a conditional use for planned use development, including certain deviations from the village zoning ordinance. So that basically is a brief sketch of the proposal tonight. And for the record, Joanne, the public has been notified. Joanne, can you hear me?
Sorry, they were having some issues with muting and unmuting. The public has been notified. There is a sign on the property. Letters to adjacent property owners were provided, and there was a letter in the, or a notice in the newspaper.
And as you have indicated, there's no written or verbal comment or objection regarding the proposed rezoning and planned use development. Is that correct?
The only comment I got was an email this morning indicating that the plan is excellent and a big improvement, and that the resident hopes that it passes, but there have been no negative comments.
Okay. So again, for the Plan Commission, everybody here is aware of the location, Army Trail, Cavalry Drive, like east of the Target shopping center, that kind of thing. You understand that?
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
then
Yes.
To the east of this property, we have some residential. To the north, that's Bloomingdale, I take it. And then to the west, it is industrial, so to speak. And then finally to the south is the Cronus property, basically. So we all understand where the location is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a thumbnail sketch of what we're looking to discuss and consider tonight. Are there any questions? Okay. So there is a petitioner here tonight,
Correct.
and his name is?
Tim Geisler.
Okay, Geisler?
Yep.
Okay.
Geisler, Geisler,
Okay.
yep.
Right. Address?
1 Pierce Place, Itasca,
Okay.
0143.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth as it pertains to the matter tonight?
I do.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, you've got the floor.
All right. Just give you a brief kind of a rundown of ML Realty Partners and then what we want to do, and then some of the deviations that we're asking for. So I'm Tim Geisler, Vice President with ML Realty Partners. We're a long-term holder of commercial real estate, meaning we buy, develop real estate, and we don't sell it. We hang on to buildings for a long period of time. We have roughly 15 million square feet between the Chicago and the Dallas markets. Again, I said we design these things for the long term. We focus on high quality buildings with aesthetics and landscape. We're glad to be working in Glendale Heights again, actually wrapping up right now at 760 North Avenue, which we started about a year ago. And that's a 116,000 square foot building that is actually a punch list, I think, this week, and we should be wrapping up that building shortly. Staff has been fantastic to work with on this project. We really appreciate it. There's a lot been going on with the world. The Zoom meetings, it's not the easiest thing for everybody, but definitely a well-oiled machine here, and it's been great to work with the staff. So we really look forward to being a long-term corporate citizen in Glendale Heights. We really try to focus on being good neighbors to all the surrounding residents. So we really try to take into all that account when we design the buildings and ultimately build them. What we want to do here, we brought this deal by our broker, Mike Antonelli of Brown Commercial. He kind of put a whole assemblage together, which has 11 different parcels, 4 different owners, totaling 20 acres. And then there's an additional thing that I think was mentioned earlier about taking some right-of-way from Bloomingdale and then a little bit on the south end from Glendale Heights. This is currently a public road, and our intent is to take this road, turn it private. It's going to stay in its same configuration. We're really going to mill it and resurface it, but that road would really stay in its own existing configuration. We're going to make it private so we can control the maintenance, the snow plow, all that kind of stuff. We did have a meeting last night at Bloomingdale, and we did pass. So they did approve on their agenda the disconnection of that road and contingent upon us closing on this property. So that was actually a good so that was a big plus. As we said, all the parcels we're going to bring in, annex that road in and change all of it to BP zoning. Currently, I believe it's zoned ag, which was when it was annexed in, was kind of brought in at its lowest level. We want to construct flex style buildings. The first building is on the north side of the site. It's 142,000 square feet. And then we have another 150,000 square foot building on the south side of the site. Both buildings will be built at the same time. Our intent is to close on these properties at the probably, as soon as we can. Likely it'll be, in January. And then there are some tenants that we're working to get out of the buildings. And then as soon as the construction season allows, probably in March, we would begin the demolition and then the new construction process. Current conditions of the site, I know a lot of you have seen this and been out there. There's various buildings, there's storage yards, there's what I'll call metal sheds, and then there's a trailer storage yard. The current trailer storage yard probably about 300 trailers at our guest. Most of the parking area right now is gravel. I'd say virtually all of the site is gravel. And it's been there for probably 60 plus years, and it's essentially at this point, in my opinion, it's an impervious area, and there is zero detention provided for this right now. We do border residence to the east, and then we have some industrial to the west and to the south. And again, bordering the residence to east is a very critical to us in the design and the layout of this building. As I said, we have two buildings, 142,000 square footer and 153,000 square foot. Buildings are going to be built on spec, meaning we don't have tenants at this time. Both buildings will be very similar. And I actually do have, the architect here. I have Jamie Putnam, our engineer here, and I have our landscape architect here. If you want to share the screen, Jamie, we could probably show the, just so everybody kind of gets a feel of what the building looks like and how the site lays out, actually. So, that is the building. Both buildings will have very similar, again, with being 143,000 square feet, or 142 and 153, very similar to size. But that's the intent of the aesthetic of the building. And then, Jamie, if you want to go to the site plan, that is probably another good one.
Let me interrupt 1 second. Is Mr. Putnam going to testify? Right.
He's asked questions. He can, yeah.
Well, I need to swear him in.
Okay.
Mr.
Actually, if I could interject, would
Sorry.
you like to swear all of the potential?
Yeah.
Well, how many are there?
I think three
Daniel,
more?
too.
Is it?
I'll tell you what, give me the names and give me the addresses and we'll swear you in all together, okay? So Mr.
Okay.
Putnam, then who else?
It's Jamie Putnam and Daniel Grove. We both work for Kimley Horn.
Some
we're-
addresses, please.
Yep. 4201 Winfield Road, Suite 600, Warrenville, 60555.
Okay, gentlemen, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth as it pertains to the matter tonight?
I do.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I do have the architect here as well, Kelly Harris. If we want to unmute Kelly, he can maybe get sworn in.
Sure, I'm unmuted. Kelly Harris, Harris Architects, 4811 Emerson Avenue, Palatine, Illinois, 60067. And I swear to tell the truth.
Okay, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth as it pertains to the matter tonight?
I do.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So kind of jumping back into these building descriptions here. Again, the north building, 142,000 square feet, south building, 152,000 square feet. Aesthetically, both of them are going to look very, very similar, which is what the rendering that we just showed you guys was. The buildings are going to be designed, we have a decent amount of glass on these things. Both buildings will have corner entries for tenants and then a dual entry at the center. So we can really divide this building up into 4 tenants. Each building could be divided into 4 tenants total. One of the requirements I know is 20% glass on the frontage, so we do have to make sure that we had 20% glass, which I think we have that covered in that.
We do have that.
Noted on the site plan. Again, these buildings are spec, so the office is unknown at this time, how much office we'll have in there, but our rule of thumb, and in general, is about 10% office on a building like this. If you look at that site plan, Jamie, I can show you where we have the auto parking. So auto parking for building 1 is all along the east side, and auto parking for building 2 is along the north side. Truck docks on building 1 are all to the west, away from the residential, and on the building 2, it's on the south, again, away from the residential. We paid special attention to keep cars and trucks separate, and all of our truck traffic will be on the western access point, which is the Cavalry Drive. We have 40 truck docks, I believe, on each building and 2 drive-in doors. So, and then the detention pond is at the south side of the property. For access to the site right now, there's 2 existing access points that we are going to reuse. Both of them on Army Trail, both of them full access points. We are working to get a 3rd access point, potentially from Kronos on Kronos Drive. We do have to go through Kronos. We can't just get it from them. We're working to get that. It's not a necessity, but it would be great to have. So again, we're pushing to get that, but we'll see what happens. Both access points off of Army Trail, as I said, are full access, meaning they can go in, right or left, in or out. However, we've limited all of the truck traffic to Cavalry Drive, which is the western entrance. The existing site right now, I would say majority of the truck traffic comes in on that east entrance, which is closer to the residential subdivision. I'll kind of go through a few of what I call are the improvements that we're doing to the site from what it is. Aesthetically, I think that's given. Buildings are going to be much nicer looking than what's out there right now. Right now, this site is, as I said, for the most part, impervious. There's not a lot of green space out there. The gravel that is out there has been out there for a long period of time, and over time it gets compacted and it becomes essentially a concrete parking lot. There is 0 detention out there right now. We are going to have a decent amount of impervious area. We're actually going to increase the green space, and we are going to provide a detention for 100% of the site. And Jamie can probably speak to that a little bit later. But there is not any water that's going to run off this site that is not controlled by us going through the detention pond, which I think should be a big improvement to the
And
rest.
that water runs to the southeast.
To the east. Correct.
Yes.
So from a truck reduction standpoint, just looking at the site and looking at the layouts, the existing truck yards could probably house around 300 trucks. Our sites have, if it's maxed out and if there's a truck at every dock at one time, which there likely won't be, 80 trucks. So it's a 75% reduction in trucks and trailers out there. And again, the access for all those is going to be on Cavalry Drive, not on Meadow. I'm actually drawing a blank on that name of the street right now. But,
Meadowlark.
Meadowlark, yeah.
The current site plan, the way that's laid out, could allow for up to 100 trucks to really go right along that eastern property line, and they're about 10 feet off of the residential property line. The majority of our site is going to have a 50-foot landscape buffer, then 70 feet of parking and additional landscaping to the building, and then 220 feet of building, and then the truck court. So if you can just imagine the sound reduction that that's going to be from the distance, from a 10-foot semi-truck backed up to the back of your property, going through the landscape buffer, parking lot, the building, and then ultimately the truck docks on the other side. Huge improvement there. We've paid special attention to lighting design. It is code to have zero lighting at the property lines, so we will absolutely have zero lighting at the property lines. We are putting our poles along the property lines, shooting the light the opposite direction towards the buildings, but all of these lights will also have shields on them, so none of the light will be visible to the property owners to the east. We rely heavily on landscaping and screening. Daniel, our landscape architect, is here. He can speak to that later if there's any questions. But we've really tried to create a dense screen, both along the front of the building on one, the side of the building on two, as well as the truck courts coming off of Army Trail and on the south side as well.
So that's 50 feet on the east?
There's 50 feet of landscaping on the east. Yeah, correct. And then there's, and then we also have a 10-foot landscape belt along the building where we do additional plantings. Our use will be conforming to the BP zoning. Right now, I think a lot of the uses out there are non-conforming. And I think that's all I had from that. So I can get into deviations now. There are a few deviations that we were asking for. Some of them are just kind of general deviations. The simplest one is the BP zoning, which was put in place a long time ago, has the loading zone requirements of 14 by 60. A typical semi-trailer is 12 by 75. So we just asked that the 14 by 60 be revised to 12 by 75. From a parking count perspective, the code reads that there's 4 stalls per 1,000 square feet of office for the first 4,000 square feet of office, and then 6 stalls per 1,000 square feet of office for any additional office. We're just requesting a flat 4 stalls per 1,000. It's going to allow more parking if we do get more office. And again, without knowing what the tenants are going to be like, we're trying to maintain flexibility on this building. We just want the ability to have enough parking stalls if we get a higher office percentage. So we're asking for a 4 per 1,000, just a flat rate of that. We have a few signage deviations. And again, I may, if I misquote any of these, please jump in and let me know. We did ask that the signage is measured from the frontage, and on building 1 especially, there is not much frontage, because the frontage is considered Army Trail Road. So I believe the code reads that it's 1.5 times the lineal footage across the. Because we have such a short side of a building there, that it be at 3.5 times that. And then we're also asking that the wall signs be allowed to be on the east and west sides of the building, whereas per code, I think they have to be on the frontage of the building. But our intent here is to try to get some tenant identification signage over the offices, which would require this deviation. Additionally, we may ask for a potential tenant sign on the back side of the building along Cavalry Drive. So when a tenant or a truck is coming in off of Cavalry Drive, they can actually look at the essentially a tenant name above the docks and figure out where that is. And there was one other signage one that I think we asked for, which was, I think originally only 1 wall sign is permitted per tenant. We were asking for 2. Again, that's just to clear up the point if they need a tenant identification on the east side and on the west side. We do have a few setback deviations that we're going for. In BP zoning, we have to maintain a 50-foot setback along the entire property line, which we are, with the exception of the existing drive at Meadowlark, or whatever there. And at that location, we're going to utilize the existing roadway, existing curb cuts that's there, and we really don't have any option to change that because that is the median break, and I believe it's the DuPage Highway Department is in the same location. So again, we do have a minor deviation there. I think we're asking for a 15-foot versus the 50-foot. And again, we're just meeting the existing, what's there. And again, that entrance will only be used for cars. It's not going to have truck traffic to it. Cavalry Drive, anytime we're adjacent to industrial, there's a requirement that we're 15 feet away. Existing Cavalry Drive is, we aren't modifying Cavalry Drive, so we're asking that we get a deviation on that as well, just to match existing. And that would actually hold true for the southern part of the property as well, along Building 2. And there is a small part on Building 2 down at the south end where we actually flare in quite a bit. And I think we go down to 5 feet there or something like that. Let's see, there's another on the west. Let's see here. Building 2, there's also 2 property line deviations. Because Building 2 is not adjacent to a public right-of-way, that would require a deviation there. And again, that's going to be utilizing private access drive that was formerly Cavalry Drive. And then because that is so close and it does share a parking lot with Building 1, there would be a 0 front yard setback on that building. There was another possible deviation that we were asking for, which would be a deviation to reduce the setback if Cavalry Drive were to remain public. However, by passing the meeting in Bloomingdale yesterday, I don't believe that's necessary.
Can I interrupt 1 second? 1 second. We're talking about deviations, and just for the Plan Commission's sake, because this is a request for a planned unit development, conditional use, basically, when the village approves a PUD, planned unit development, what they're saying is the village is going to more or less be flexible and more relaxed on the strict enforcement of that particular zoning in exchange for something a little special, a little more pertinent to the situation. And I believe when the petitioner, he'll agree with me, I hope, when he uses the word deviation, he's just suggesting that they are asking for flexibility in regard to those requirements under the zoning requirements. So just so the Plan Commission is aware that these are not variances, these are just deviations, little splitting of hairs, so to speak, as to the actual demands of the zoning ordinance. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Okay. I think that's about it for the deviations. Trying to head off some of the questions, which is the biggest question that everybody has is potential tenants. Do you have any tenants? Yes or yes. We do not yet. It's being built on spec, meaning we typically build these buildings empty. And a lot of times for buildings of this size, you really don't get much activity or action until the buildings are completed. A lot of times these tenants are smaller and they want to come in, they want to see the space and feel the space. So as I spoke to, our North Avenue project is at the final phases. And probably in the last month, we've had a flurry of activity out there of potential tenants coming in to take some space there. The question a lot of times we get is, what are the tenants? Really, the sky's the limit here. A lot of these guys are going to be image conscious. These are brand new buildings, high quality, high image. So you're going to get a little bit more image conscious, higher end tenants. A lot of these have retail components to them. We've seen guys, and we've a lot of buildings like this between Chicago and Texas. Just some examples, or sometimes you get like a kitchen and bath showroom, much like Creative Glass that I think is right down the street on Army Trail Road. Somebody like that who comes in and has little mock-up bathrooms or kitchens, and then they have some kind of supplies that are carried in the back. We have volleyball sports complexes or cheerleading or baseball, training facilities. In our Lockport projects that are about the same size, we have Chiquita Banana is a tenant. They do some banana ripening in there. We have Mission Tortilla is another tenant. They don't make or bake anything there, but they use it from a small distribution standpoint. We have a tenant called Press Sense that makes the Fathead, the stickers, the pro athletes that you see out there. They're a tenant down in our Lockport facility that have about 40,000 square feet. And then we have a company called Excellent, which makes, they distribute safety cages. They're made overseas, they're shipped in here, and they're, kind of in the automotive industry or around machines, big safety cage that goes in here. So it really, we don't know what the tenants are going to be. Kind of the sky's the limit, but what it's not a heavy outdoor trailer storage use. It's not an outdoor construction supply house. It's not an Amazon. Amazon comes in, and we do not have the dock count nor the parking count for an Amazon. So these are just kind of smaller style buildings that have, I'll call them higher image, smaller use, pretty much, low dock count tenants. And that's really what we anticipate seeing. And, having about 15 million square feet of this, we really do understand, and we really try to tailor the building towards those kind of users. And that's really what we expect to see. So, with that, if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them. We got a bunch of guys here, architects, engineers, landscapers that can talk.
Yeah, if I may, just to get started, just a couple of questions before the Plan Commission jumps in. Can you or the village explain the access to the property? I know it's Cavalry Drive, but in reference to the right-of-way acquisition attempt from the village and from the village of Bloomingdale, can you expound upon that?
If you want, I can take a stab at it. So Cavalry Drive is currently a public right-of-way. It was, as Tim mentioned, the northern portion was in the village of Bloomingdale, and the southern portion is in the village of Glendale Heights. Yesterday, Bloomingdale disconnected the right-of-way, so it is now technically fully in the village of Glendale. Actually, no, it's unincorporated right now. So there's a small portion of right-of-way that's unincorporated. A separate request by the applicant would be to annex that former the right-of-way. And then a further request would be to vacate the entire right-of-way from the village of Glendale Heights. That is actually beneficial to the village because we will not be responsible for snow plowing, for maintenance, for repaving the surface. It really, that Cavalry Drive access does not, it's going to look the same basically, but it will be a private driveway. The applicant wanted to do that in order to have better control, and they can make sure that it's first on the snowplow route, not as when we get to it based on our priorities, and then they'll be able to maintain it. There will be cross-access easements over it to make sure that both buildings have access to that Cavalry Drive. So it'll basically be a long driveway for access to those buildings.
So the requests are pending. That is that they do?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The request for the right-of-way acquisition is pending.
Actually, well, Bloomingdale disconnected the right-of-way, and then the request to vacate the right-of-way is part of this petition that would be considered by the village board.
Okay. And,
Commissioner Brule, may I ask a question while you're on that topic?
Go ahead.
So that we don't have to come back to it?
Go ahead. Okay.
My question is, what is the effect on access to the existing self-storage facility? Is Cavalry Drive now an access point for that property?
It is. So the self-storage facility, which is in the village of Bloomingdale, has one access point at the toward the north end of Cavalry Drive.
Mm-hmm.
That access point will be retained. They will have an access easement. So they will continue to have that access that's being preserved to protect them. But it will be private access. It'll just be an access easement rather than a public right-of-way.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to be a driveway exclusively for the use of those two buildings, where you eliminated access to the Bloomingdale self-storage.
No.
Okay.
Okay, and to the property line, the activity is not to be truck traffic.
Bob, we can't hear you guys. Try again.
No.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, maybe Mike or the petitioner. Are we talking about 11 deviations in total? Hello? You hear me?
I can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Yes, there's 11 deviations in
Okay,
total.
are those
Correct.
deviations located on page 11 and 12?
Page, I want to say 5 of the packet.
What about page 11 and 12? What are parking setbacks, all sign regs?
I mean, that's the site plan breakdown. That's just a chart for your reference of what the code is
Okay.
versus what the request is. A list of the deviations is found on page 5
Right.
of the staff report, the complete list.
Okay, sorry about that, Plan Commission, but I was trying to set up a format in which we could attack this, and we're sort of scattered here. So, does the Plan Commission have any questions?
This is Commissioner Brule, and I have several questions. So perhaps I should go last because someone else may raise the same question. Or perhaps I should go first.
You should go first, and if there's a redundancy, it'll be noted.
Okay. I'm going to start in the packet on page 4. And my first question is in reference to the east entrance at Meadowlark. And I understand that there is no change in the entrance. It is no closer to the residences than it currently is. I understand that this is intended only for vehicle traffic, not trucks, which will be an improvement in the situation since it's now used for truck traffic. My question is, as traffic approaches on Army Trail Road and they are eastbound, if a truck misses the Cavalry Drive entrance, will there be any signage to indicate on Army Trail Road that this east entrance is not accessible for trucks? Am I making my question clear or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Jamie Putnam, do you want to answer that one? I believe that's going to be up to the DuPage County Highway Department.
Yeah, we've submitted our plans into DUDOT. We've talked to them and explained that this is the car traffic. So it's something we could ask them. But yeah, it's if the sign goes, it would be in the right of way and it'd have to be approved by DuPage County Transportation.
Okay. Do you anticipate that would be? I mean, my visual is a truck turning in being unable to make the sharp turn that's being proposed and kind of stuck there.
Yeah, I mean, if they're approaching from the,
if they're eastbound on Army Trail Road. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, they're going to drive right by the site, and as a truck, that's not going to. They're not going to try. In my opinion, is a kind of a tight turn. They're going to go right past it and have to figure out how to come back.
Okay.
To it because that'd be a harder turn to pull a 90 or a U-turn basically inside there.
Okay. My next question is in reference to the signage on Army Trail Road and the signage on the east side of the building. Will this signage be illuminated?
It could possibly be.
And are there any restrictions or regulations on the illumination of the signs?
Not in the zoning code, no. I mean, it can't be over. It's got to be covered. It can't be exposed, an exposed light. It needs to be a channel letter, so a backlit sign, if you will.
But it could be a large neon sign.
It could not be like a message reader board, but if they wanted a bright pink neon sign that's backlit, yes, they could. They could apply for something like that, but it has to go through the owners.
Correct.
ML Realty.
And we do, yeah, it all does come through us, and we do work with our architect to make sure that they're aesthetically pleasing. We don't want big pink neon signs on our sides of our buildings.
Well, I'm concerned on the east side of the
Yep.
building because that's the side that faces the residential.
Sure.
So
yeah, you know, and again, the signage on the east side, it's not going to be the intent to have advertising or be able to show from Army Trail Road, you know, what your is. Really, the only intention of the signage on the east side is more tenant identification for when you're driving up to the building, that you can actually pull in and park in front of that specific unit. So
okay.
From a height standpoint, it's certainly not going to be at the top of the building. It would probably be a little bit lower because as you're driving in, you're probably going to be, call it 30 foot away from the side of the building. So you're not going to want to look at the top of the building. It's going to be a little bit lower, probably, you know, more likely over the doors. And again, it's not, the intent is not to view it from Army Trail. It's really just viewing it from when you're in front of the space. So the intent is, I don't envision these being very large, bright signs, if that's the question.
Okay, I'm moving to page 13 in
Cora,
the packet.
Cora, can I
Uh-huh.
interrupt 1 second? Well, when we talk about trucks, we talk about semi-trucks, box trucks?
Over here.
When we talk about truck traffic,
Is that all I could do with it?
It's sit down, yeah.
Truck traffic, I think just the question I got was, is it semi trucks and box trucks? And the answer will be yes to both.
so it can be, so box trucks, semi-trucks, and what other category there is. So anything that we consider a truck would not be allowed.
I didn't quite catch that, sorry.
So anything that we consider to be a truck, generically speaking, would not be allowed on the east side, access to the site.
Correct. I mean, it would have to be something that would fit in a standard parking stall.
Okay, very good.
Not your 53-foot trailers.
I'm not sure if if they were getting a delivery to the office to FedEx. I don't say that a FedEx truck wouldn't pull up there, but I don't. It's not. It's not.
Okay, Cora, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I'm going to page 13 in the packet, and my next question concerns the bioswale on the east edge of the property.
Yep.
Okay, when I look at the attachments, it appears that bioswale changes grade as it moves from north to south. There is a section map, and then there is also a section key map that shows the bioswale and the naturalized basin images. And it appears that the bioswale is a little bit deeper at the north edge of the property, and it kind of levels out as it goes to the south edge. Do I need to tell you? This is in the attachments.
Yeah.
And it is a page after the landscaping. So it shows what the landscape plantings are going to be. And then the next page shows the building with the parking lot, the landscape buffer, and its location in reference to the existing residential property line.
He's got it on the screen, Cora. You can't see it, I know, because you're on the
It's cross section.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I mean, am I seeing this correctly? As the bioswale goes from north to south, it changes elevation. It appears that at the north it's a little deeper. At the south end, it's a little shallower.
It's to explain. It's why it's the exact same elevation through. What this is actually depicting is on the north side the grade elevations with the residents are actually higher. So we've got to transition down. So that's why it shows in that pack like a V, a little bit steeper.
Correct.
But
There's
as
a
you
V,
get down, when you get down to the south, the elevation of the bioswale relative to the elevation of the neighbors is a lot closer. So that's why it shows it flatter. So to answer your first question, is the bioswale at the bottom is actually the same all the way across. It's just making up the grades to the neighbors is what causes that look that you're seeing on the plan.
Okay, I have two questions. My first, is there any type of a berm proposed, or is it going to be the exact grade that it is now?
So it's matching the grades at the property line with the residents coming down into the bioswale, and then when it goes back up to the parking lot, there is a small berm at the parking lot itself.
At the parking lot, okay.
Yes.
My second question is the bioswale connected to the detention pond on the south side of Building 2?
Correct. So what it actually does is it flows. It's harder with the grades, but it all flows together. So the idea behind it, apologies because you can't see that, is as the water comes off Building 1, it can drain into the bioswale, and then the water carries south and actually drains into the detention pond. So it creates this long area to provide infiltration and water quality prior to getting into the larger detention pond.
Okay. It is not connected via any type of a sewer system or a sewer grate? No.
Nope. It's just higher, and then when it gets towards the pond, it'll actually spill over into the pond.
Okay.
On the southeast
All right.
corner.
My next question is in the attachments, and it is, I'm just flipping through here. It is in the photometric site plan. And I know that you talked a little bit about the light pollution issue. And I'm a little sensitive on this issue because of the fact that this property is higher than the residential property. I know you said that the lights will be shielded. They'll be pointed towards the building. The parking lot lights will be on the east perimeter. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they will be shielded, and they'll be pointed towards the building.
Correct.
And are these lights on from sunset to sunrise?
Yes.
These are on all night?
They are on all night. Correct, for security.
Okay, and for security purposes. There's no business, but the lights are on.
Correct.
Okay. And what would be, I know I'm not an expert in this area, but what would be the reflection factor? I mean, you're going to have these lights pointed at a white concrete building.
Correct. So the foot candles at the property line is required to be 0. And again, we put these shields on them so you don't see the actual light themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that we did is we rather than put the lights on the building, which if we had the lights on the building, you'd see more of a scalloping of lighting on the building itself. But
correct.
On the side, the east side, and shining them towards the building, I don't know if there's a foot candle level that can be seen there, but it's really the intent to put them on the east side is to take away and show less light against the building, if that makes any sense.
Okay. My last question is on Cavalry Drive. Cavalry Drive is going to be the access, really the truck access for both Building 1 and Building 2. Cavalry Drive is going to be a 2-way drive on the west side of Building 2. Is that correct?
2-way drive on the west side of the, yes.
Yes. Okay. That's my last question.
Okay.
I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Planning Commission? Okay, I think what we could do is to put this in a certain perspective. This is quite a bit of material to cover. Let's go back to the original proposal and consider each proposal one by one. And I think we could sort of narrow our investigation, so to speak, more efficiently. The first consideration was to rezone the 11 total properties in the vacated public right-of-way from the agriculture zoning designation to the business park district. And the Plan Commission, when they consider this rezoning in their motion to accept or deny, would basically take a look at the proposal and see if this is consistent. The rezoning would be consistent with the trend of development today regarding types of businesses, labor availability, things of that nature. Is this consistent with the trend of development is today? That would be your consideration for the first motion. The second motion would be the subdividing or consolidating 11 parcels into 2 parcels, and that's to facilitate the development of the PUD. And finally, the conditional use to allow the plan unit development, including certain deviations from the village ordinance. The proposal, or do you have any concerns or questions regarding the consolidation of the 11 parcels into 2 parcels? Does the village have any comment regarding that proposal? The consolidation of the 11 parcels into 2?
No.
So that would be a consideration for the Plan Commission when they do consider a motion regarding that aspect. And finally, number 3, the consideration for conditional use to allow for the plan unit development, including certain deviations from the village ordinance. Again, as I said before, because this is a conditional use requesting a plan unit development, the village is relaxing the more strict application of the zoning ordinance to allow for greater flexibility to with the deviations requested by the petitioner. In other words, to achieve a better plan of development, a more superior application or development, the village is allowing itself to request or to relax the more strict application of the village ordinance. The plan unit development, again, is talking about these 2 buildings that were spoken for, 142,000 square feet, 153,000 square feet. And the deviations so indicated would be, as the village just indicated on page 6, would be what the applicant is asking in regards to relaxing some of the more stringent application of the zoning ordinance. So if you look at page 5, the deviations are listed, and Joanne, I don't know, other than basically taking the village's word for their investigation or the acceptance of the deviations as to whether or not we're prepared to analyze each deviation. Does that make sense? Because there are 11. And would the Plan Commission be comfortable with the accepting the deviations as proposed in the village memorandum or the village memo regarding this application?
So
go ahead.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. If do you want a greater explanation of the deviations?
Well, there are 11 deviations. Do we need to go through each deviation?
No, I think that the applicant went through them in pretty sufficient detail. So I don't think it's necessary to go through each one.
Does the Plan Commission have any questions regarding those deviations? Again,
No.
These are not variances. These are just relaxations, so to speak, of the village ordinance. A request on the part of the petitioner to sort of relax the requirements, the strict requirements.
Bob, this is Doug Reimer. Joanne and Mike, are you comfortable with those deviations?
Yes.
Can't hear you, Joanne.
Oh,
Yes
Joanne
is
mutes
yes.
You got to keep the mute on.
You can nod your head.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
it's Mike's fault. He keeps muting me.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, I have no problem with them at all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add,
Yes,
the approval of the PUD is also conditioned upon six different conditions or recommended conditions.
yes,
I just didn't want you to forget about those.
yes, that's on page,
17.
right, right. Yeah, that's on page 17. And what Pete is referring to is that conditions to any approval, any motion of approval would be dependent upon the 6 recommendations that the village has imposed on this application. That's on page 17. Number 1, all required village permit approvals shall be sought. The applicant shall obtain all approvals from outside agencies. Development shall occur in conformance with the site plan dated November 30th. Development shall occur in conformance with the civil engineering plans drawn by Kimberly Horn dated November 2nd. 5 and 6, et cetera. I'm just citing in general. Donna, the reference would be made subsequently to the Plan Commission or the village's recommendations on page 17.
Correct. So when we vote on number 3, we're doing it with those 6 recommendations,
Yes.
correct?
Right.
Yes.
That's what we would recommend that the motion consider.
Right.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did miss some of that conversation about the signage. Was there discussion about either limiting the that they be illuminated or limiting the height of the signage on the east side?
Petitioner?
No, yeah, we do want to make, and then the height. I mean, we generally know where it's going to go. And if we want to show the elevation again, I can kind of give a guideline. It's going to be below the clear story windows and above the punched windows. So it'd be somewhere kind of right where the hand is right now. That's kind of where the intent, where we think it just makes sense to have the signage. It doesn't, that's where the intent is. And if you go to the center of the building in line with where, otherwise it would be probably too high to view from the parking lot there. Again, it's mainly just to identify the tenant.
Oh, you're not on.
Face-to-face to it.
No.
But we'll work with, as the tenants come up, you know, we
I'm sorry?
control over it. That's in our leases, and then we'll work with staff to put it in the appropriate location.
Okay. Yeah, Bob, can you add that?
Sorry. Okay, so again, what the Plan Commission is considering is the application for the rezoning, the PUD and the consolidation. And
Bob, real quick, if I could, Joanne wanted to add, she's having computer issues. She wanted to add a
okay.
requirement for the sign height, I think just below that second set of windows there. Is that what you were indicating, Joanne? Okay. Along the elevation wall, just below, not above
Okay.
those windows there. That's Joanne's suggestion to add to make a condition.
That'd be number
If
7?
if the Plan Commission is in agreement.
A succinct statement regarding that.
I guess you could say that the signage, tenant signage shall be below the upper set of windows on the east. Would it be the east elevation?
Yeah.
Yes.
How about for building number 2?
Building number 2, Joanne, are you fine? Are you fine with the sign height on the building? Do you want any restrictions on building 2? Just building 1 on the east side.
Okay, adding to the village conditions for recommendation of approval will be item number 7. Signage below the upper set of windows, upper elevation of building number 2. Does that sound good?
Building 1.
Building 1.
1.
They must be below the upper set of windows on the east elevation of building number 1.
Number 1. Okay. Donna, do you have that?
I do, yes.
Thank you. Okay. So generally speaking, I think we have an idea of the proposal and what the Plan Commission needs to take into consideration. If you look at page 15, there's a quite an extensive listing of criteria that the Plan Commission ought to consider before they recommend, or should consider before they recommend, deny, or table the request by the petitioner regarding this proposal. I'll just go over this briefly, and if you think there's some question as to whether or not this proposal is contrary to the criteria, just indicate. So if not, we will presume that you have no problem with that criteria. Again, the village is suggesting that when they if they approve of the deviations proposed by the petitioner, they're doing so because the plan represents a superior design, a more creative approach. I think it's pretty aware. If you take a look at the situation there now and what the petitioner is proposing to develop, I think there's a stark contrast to the positive. B, meets PUD requirements. I think there's been, is it still 2 units per 5 acres, Mike?
I'm sorry, say again?
The PUD requirements have changed? Is it 1
No.
or 2?
I think is it 3 acres or 2 acres?
I believe it's 2. 2 is the minimum.
And this is what,
But
5
no, it
acres?
hasn't changed.
Oh, this is 20 acres.
20 acres.
Right. So does this meet those requirements?
Yes.
Okay, consistent with the village plan, Army Trail, that designation, is that equal to North Avenue as an arterial?
Yes.
That's consistent. Do we see any problem with public welfare, any detriment to the public safety, health, morals, etc.? Compatible with the environs. It's at that general location where industrial is meeting residential, so to speak, on the east end, but there's adequate buffer presented by the petition regarding berms, landscaping, things of that nature. So that seems to be satisfactory, as I understand the Plan Commission. And I see no, or we, the Plan Commission, sees no conflict with the preservation of natural features on this site, such as floodplains, wooded areas, natural drainways, etc. And I believe the drainage of the water or stormwater to the southeast portion of the site has been discussed and considered, and the Plan Commission has no question regarding that situation. And the negotiation traffic on the site plan regarding circulation seems to be sufficient. Open space and landscaping acceptable to the village.
Yes.
And finally, just to bring things together, village engineer, they had basically accepted the site plan, the preliminary site plan. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Pending final approval, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the fire district has some qualifications, does it not?
Yeah, just some basic qualifications about approving the final plan as well. They wanted some signage along the access road.
And that'll be considered on the final plan. correct?
Right, the final walkthrough.
Okay, the police have no concerns regarding this application. Public Works Village, this would not impact upon the village's ability to provide water, sewage, other services, et cetera. Is that correct? There'd be no impact on village services.
Correct.
Correct.
Oh, to the meeting? Yeah, that's all I got. I can't get back to the.
All right, Plan Commission, any questions? 2 buildings, 20 acres. It's going to clean up the area.
Yeah. Maybe
I
it's,
don't-
that's
Can I
what
say that this is a twin to
they have to stop this sharing screen. So, who are you on mute? Are you mute?
Can I say that this proposal is basically a twin of on what's on North Avenue?
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay, so I mean, for the Plan Commission, that's what the village would be getting.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind you that to open this up to the public as well.
Right. Okay. So we indicated that the applicant shall obtain all required village permit approvals. Applicant shall obtain all required approvals from the outside agencies. Development shall occur in conformance with the site plan drawn by the architects of November 30th, 2020. Development shall occur in conformance with civil engineering plans drawn by Kimberly Horn dated November 2nd, 2020. Okay, before I open it up, Plan Commission have any questions?
No.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. There being no questions for the Plan Commission, is there anybody in the public, is there anybody other than the Plan Commission wishes to address the Plan Commission regarding this proposal?
Okay, this is where I need to step in, Chairman, if I could, and go down the list. I'm first going to open it up to anyone who may be in Floyd Brown, any members of the public that are in the Floyd Brown room who wish to ask a question or make a comment.
There appears to be nobody in the Floyd Brown room.
There's nobody down there? Okay, I was waiting for Tom. I don't know what.
I don't think I don't know if he's in there either.
He's in there. Okay, I'm just going to go on the list then, or if you have a question, please raise your hand virtually so I can see it. But I am just going to go down the list here of participants in the meeting. I have 847-624-7755. And I have Aaron Olson. Do you wish to make a comment? Please raise your hand. Don Storino, Floyd Brown room we went through. I have Jamie, no last name indicated. I have Mark, no last name indicated. I have a Mike A. I have Sandy Marquez. Kelly Harris, who's the architect. Again, raise your hand virtually if you want to make a comment. Okay, 1 second. I have, oops, I'm sorry. I had Jamie just pop up here. Let me unmute you. Jamie, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I just had a question on the privatization of the road. I think it was, I can't quite remember the name. I think, the question was, the purpose of the privatization is...
Okay, hang on, sir, 1 second. Hang on, sir, 1 second. Bob, you have to unmute yourself there. And then you're going to have to be sworn in, sir. Bob, you have to click unmute.
Mike, can you unmute him?
I can only ask him to do
you hear
it,
me?
unless I mute everybody. Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, there is a individual in the public who wishes to address the Plan Commission?
Yes.
Yes.
And your name is?
First name Jamie, last name Ideali.
Donna, do you have that?
Last name was what?
Ideali.
Okay.
Can you spell that, sir?
Yes, Idiyaly.
Thank you.
Address, please.
539 James Court, Unit B.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth as it pertains to the matter tonight?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. What's your question?
It's more of a question for the privatization of the road. Is the purpose for that so the individuals looking for this permitting and exception or the deviations, they want to be able to perform the maintenance and snow plowing, etc. themselves?
Yes, I can answer that, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the reason for the deviation is so they have better control of the road, so they can maintain it and plow it and repave it if necessary. But it doesn't impact the design in any manner.
Okay. I'm just curious if there's any way to add the requirement where the individuals would take care of the snow plowing, where, as far as I can tell, paving usually happens on maybe a 5 to 10 year schedule. And more, it seems like snow plowing is what would be more frequent or more required.
Sure, actually, because the developer will maintain ownership of the buildings, they'll maintain the road as they see fit for their tenants. And then it's same as any private parking lot. If there's a pothole or a code violation, the village would advise them that they need to repave, but they would be responsible for that schedule on their own merit.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Is there anyone else interested in making a comment? Please raise your hand virtually so I can see you. Give it another minute. Okay, no one has raised their hand. I will just ask a few members of the public that are on here. Sandy, if you can hear me, if you have a question, please raise your hand virtually. Mike A, Mark, Aaron Olson appear to be the only public members left. I have, oops, I'm sorry, Mike Marin. I will unmute you now. Go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to say that we have not received any comments over the email link that we have been posted on the website. I just checked that, and there's nothing from the public on there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the record, we have offered the public a chance to participate in the discussion, and we had one response, one individual response.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Does the village have any other comment regarding this application?
No, sir, we have no additional commentary.
And I understand that the Plan Commission has considered the testimony and the evidence presented in this application, and it would be ready to consider a motion, in this case 3 motions. Let me just state them one at a time and get your reaction. The first motion for consideration would to rezone 11 total properties and vacate the public right-of-way from the AE Agriculture and Estate to the BP Business Park District designation. Again, what we're doing there is we're rezoning the property from basically a no-use description into the business park district by virtue of the fact that the proposal to rezone is consistent with the trend of development in that particular area at this particular time.
Um,
Commission?
Bob, I have a procedural question.
Right.
Mine is just a procedural. Can we vote to vacate the right-of-way before it's annexed to the Village of Glendale Heights? It's just,
No.
mine's just a procedural question.
No.
No.
We would have
So-
to annex the road to Glendale Heights, then vacate it. Because
Okay,
right
so
now
the
it's
mo-
Go ahead.
Okay, so but the motion you're asking for is to vacate
No.
that right-of-way. No?
And the
It's
vacation.
it's the re-subdivision from
Okay.
11 lots to 2 lots.
Vacated
Okay.
past tense. Okay?
Okay. It's nothing to do with the right-of-way on the roadway.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So, given that description for the first consideration, the rezoning, does the Plan Commission have a motion to approve, deny, or table regarding that consideration or that application or that request?
I motion to move the rezoning to the village board for approval. State is.
Okay, is there any discussion regarding that motion? Okay, there being no discussion.
Was that seconded by Doug, Commissioner Reimer?
No.
Boss.
Thank you.
Okay, under discussion, there is no discussion regarding that request, so motion to approve is in order. Donna, roll call vote.
Commissioner Bari? Commissioner Bari? Commissioner Brule?
Yes.
Commissioner Caswick?
Yes.
Commissioner Foss?
Yes.
Commissioner Reimer?
Yes.
Okay,
Commissioner Bari?
I don't see him on the list anymore. He must have either signed off or
Okay.
his computer might have gone down.
in either case, the motion is adopted.
Yeah.
And that motion will be on its way to the board for their consideration and or their approval. The second motion to consider would be to obtain a plat of subdivision approval to consolidate the 11 parcels into 2 parcels. Okay, is there any question regarding that potential motion?
Motion to approve and send to the board for approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Can we get a clarification on who seconded?
Doug Reimer.
Thank you.
Okay, again, it's under discussion. There being no discussion on the roll call vote, Donna?
Commissioner Bari? Commissioner Brule?
Yes.
Commissioner Caswick?
Yes.
Commissioner Foss?
Yes.
Commissioner Reimer?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is adopted. It's on its way to the board for their consideration. The third motion is to obtain a conditional use to allow for a planned unit development, including certain deviations from the village's zoning ordinance.
Conditioned upon the 7 conditions.
Yes, as indicated on page, is it 17?
That is correct.
Page 17, yes.
17, right? With the addendum.
Staff approvals.
From the village regarding the signage.
Oh, so does that make it 8 then? Oh, no, the 8.
Seven. No,
7. I'm
7.
sorry, 7. Right, okay, sorry.
Do you have that, Donna?
Yeah, I have number 7 being the signs will be above the first set of windows on the east side of the first building.
Right.
Is that right?
Right. Okay.
Above the first set or below the second set? Below the
I thought
top
Peter
set?
said he
It's
wanted it
below
above
the
the
top
first
windows.
set. What's that?
It's below the upper windows on the east elevation of building 1.
Okay, below the upper windows.
I have the sign below the upper set of windows of the upper elevation east of building number 1.
Correct.
East elevation, building 1, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, and again, the conditions that are indicated on page 17 with an additional item number 7 is so indicated. So that would be a requirement by the village for consideration for approval. So do we have a motion?
I moved the Senate of the board was.
There's a second?
Second.
So we're in discussion then, right?
Right.
Okay, is there any other discussion, any further discussion? Okay, there being no further discussion, roll call vote on it.
Commissioner Bruhl,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswick,
Yes.
Commissioner Foss,
Yes.
Commissioner Reimer.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's adopted. It's on its way to the village board for the consideration. And for the petitions, I believe that's about all you asked for. Is that correct? Is there any questions regarding that set of approvals? Okay, there being no questions, no further comment regarding those approvals. A motion to be adjourned.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if before you adjourn, I just wanted to remind everyone that there is a committee of the whole meeting immediately there. As soon as the Plan Commission meeting is adjourned, then we are going to move into the committee of the whole meeting. So anyone who is interested in staying on is welcome to stay on for that meeting that's immediately thereafter.
Okay, but in either case, we can close the Plan Commission meeting, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Voice vote?
No,
No,
Mr.
you have to
Chairman,
do the
because-
roll call.
Yeah, because it's a virtual meeting, we need a roll call.
Okay, roll call vote on it?
We did have a motion to close? Don't we need a motion first to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second,
Any discussion? Okay, Donna, roll call.
Commissioner Bruhl,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswick,
Yes.
Commissioner Foss,
Yes.
Commissioner Reimer.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's adopted. The Plan Commission meeting for December 15th, 2020 has adjourned at 8:36. Thank you. And now the village is requesting what?
No, actually, if anyone who wants to stay on, we're going to start the committee of the whole meeting in just a couple minutes. Trustee Light will be coming into the council chambers to get set up, and we'll go into that meeting in just a few minutes. So don't exit the meeting if you are interested in listening to that committee of the whole or participating.
Okay, this is Cora, and I am exiting the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
What is the meeting?
Hello.
Yeah,
Bye, everybody.
Right.
Can you take the plans off the computer?
Yeah, could you stop sharing?
All right, can we hear me now, or?
Yes.
I hear you, Mike.
All right, everything is good. Okay, I want to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting, a special meeting of the Committee of the Whole for December 15th, 2020. Ms. Clerk, can you note who is attending this?
Do I have to do a roll call because we're on Zoom?
Yes.
President
Okay.
Jackson,
Here.
Trustee Schmidt,
Here.
Trustee Sullivan,
Here.
Trustee Light,
Yes.
Trustee Meritato,
Here.
Trustee Pojak,
Here.
and Trustee Schroeder.
Here.
All right, we're all here. Do we have any additions before I go any further? None that I can see. Then we'll go on to any public comment. Anyone in the public want to address this Committee of the Whole?
At this time, I would ask any member of the public wishing to ask a comment or question, please raise your hand virtually. Give it a minute. Okay.
Once again, Trustee Light, the email that is set up on the link for the village's website does not have any public comment that has come in.
All right,
Thank
great,
you.
thank you.
And I have no, right now, I have no, no public comment at this time.
Perfect. Then we'll go on
Trustee
to-
Light,
Yes.
I think you have to read the special meeting
What?
announcement.
I do. Okay, let me start this off then.
Thank you.
The governor of the state of Illinois has declared a gubernatorial disaster proclamation in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, restricting individuals to gatherings of 10 persons or less. And all of the village of Glendale Heights is covered by this disaster area. In light of the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak, the village president of the village of Glendale Heights has determined that an in-person meeting for December 15, 2020, committee of the whole meeting is not particular or prudent in light of this disaster. All the trustees of the village board participating in the December 15, 2020 committee of the whole meeting, wherever they be physical location, shall be verified and determined that they can hear one another and can hear all discussion and testimony during the meeting. Signed, Linda Jackson, village president of the village of Glendale Heights. All right, now we can go on with that. Sorry about that. Discussion regarding proposed annexation of Cavalry Drive right-of-way. Do we have any motion for this? Trustee Bojack. A motion to approve the annexation of Cavalry Drive.
Move it to the board.
Second.
All right, discussion. Trustee Schmidt.
I would like to amend the motion to move it to the board with a recommendation to approve.
Okay. Before we approve that, I had my hand raised. Right. Trustee Pojek.
Yeah, I just got a couple quick questions. Are there going to be air conditioners on the roof and any noise for the tenants on the east side?
This was for the annexation of Cavalry Drive. This is part. Will it be part of it, Joanne?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If he was questioning air conditioning units.
Right.
And the noise.
And the noise. Would this be part of this annexation for Cavalry Drive?
No, sorry. Then the next proposal, or one of the upcoming proposals, is the actual approval of the PUD, and we can certainly answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Back on that, we have any other discussion on this? Other discussion? Roll call vote.
President Jackson? Yes. Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Sullivan?
Yes.
Trustee Meritato?
Yes.
Trustee Pojek?
Yes.
And Trustee Schroeder? If Mike is leading the meeting, do I call him as well?
No.
Yes. Trustee
No.
Light?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Light, yes.
Whoa, she looks so big.
40 years.
Is that a full roll call?
Yeah, it passed.
Okay.
You're gonna move it to the board?
Yes, we'll move to the board with the recommendation concur. All right, next one. Approval of a plat of vacation of the Cavalry Drive right-of-way. We have a motion.
Mayor Jackson has her hand up.
Move it to the board with the recommendation to concur.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Sullivan?
Yes.
Trustee Light?
Yes.
Trustee Meritato?
Yes.
Trustee Pojek,
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
and President Jackson.
Yes.
We'll move that to the board with a recommendation to concur. All right. On to our committee recommendations. The Plan Commission has a recommendation to approve the rezoning of 11 parcels and 4 public right-of-way from AE Agricultural and Estate District to BP Business Park District. Conditional use in the BP Business Park District for the approval of a planned unit development to consolidate and re-subdivide 11 parcels and former public right-of-ways into 2 parcels. Permit for the development of one approximately 142,008 square feet office and warehouse building at 55 West Army Trail Road, and a permit for the development of one approximately 153,000 square foot office and warehouse building at 85 West Army Trail Road, and other deviations identified by the village staff, which one of them will include the sign height not to be below the upper windows. Do we have a motion?
You know, Mike, this is Don.
Hi, Don.
Serino. Could you take those, the Plan Commission took them in 3 bites. They took the rezoning, the plat of subdivision, and then the PUD. I think maybe it would be best to take the rezoning first from the ag estate to the BP, just as a motion, and then follow it up with the subdivision, and then follow it up, Mike, finally with the PUD.
Okay, so Don, can I just break that down in that exact same order?
Yes.
The rezoning. We'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on the rezoning, or do I need to get a motion on each one of those separate?
Each one. Motion
Okay.
on the rezoning first.
All right, can I get a motion on the rezoning? Trustee Schmidt.
Move it to the board with a recommendation to concur.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, no one I can see. Roll call vote. Roll call vote, Beck?
Trustee Sullivan,
Yes.
Trustee Light,
Yes.
Trustee Meritato,
Yes.
Trustee Pojek,
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder, President Jackson,
Yes.
and Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
We have recommendation to concur on the rezoning. We'll move that to the board without a problem. All right, and second one is the subdivision. Can I get a motion on that one? Trustee Sullivan.
Move it to the board with a recommendation to concur.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote on that one, please.
Trustee Light,
Yes, please.
Trustee Meritato,
Yes.
Trustee Pojek,
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
President Jackson,
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
and Trustee Sullivan.
Yes.
Move that to the board with a recommendation concur. Perfect. And then the last one is the PUD of this one. Can I get a motion? Trustee Sullivan.
Move it to the board with a recommendation to concur.
Second.
Second.
Second. All right. Discussion? All right, we have no discussion that I can see.
I believe this would be
Um,
where trustee Pojek would want to ask his question, correct, Joanne?
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. All right, that falls under
Yes.
discussion.
That is correct. And I believe Mr. Geisler is still on, so perhaps he can respond to that question.
Is there going to be any air conditioners on the roof that'll emit some noise for the residents on the east side?
There will be air conditioners on the roof. They're typically set back so you don't see them or screened. And it is a very minimal sound. I mean, these are small package air tap units for your typical air conditioners. They're not like what you'd see south at Kronos, the big refrigeration units. These are just
Right.
package.
Because I know we had issues with their units.
Much different. Yep, much different, much smaller.
My other question is, looking for handicap parking. I see some in your plans, but not that many. Can you tell me how many handicap spots you allowed?
I don't know. I mean, it's so that's
code.
I'm just looking for the drawing here to see.
If I could jump in real quick, there is 6 per building, which meets the Illinois Accessibility Code requirement.
Only 6 per building?
6 per building. Building 1, I believe, has 162 spaces, and building 2 has 167 spaces. The Illinois Accessibility Code requires 6 handicap spaces between 150 spaces and 200 spaces.
All right, thank you.
The only other question I had was access for the Chrono Drive. I was really hoping to maybe touch upon more upon that with truck traffic and fire access. I mean, I think it would really be great if we can make this happen.
We're certainly, yeah, we've reached out to, I think, old Kronos, and I know village staff has actually reached out as well. So we're definitely trying to make headway on that. And if we can get it, we would love to have it. They do own a strip there that prevents us from just connecting that, directly into Kronos Drive from our property. So we are absolutely trying to get it. Hopefully we're successful.
Yeah, that would really be nice. I would like to see that.
If I could add to that a little bit, I did send a follow-up email to Kronos just yesterday, and we are diligently pursuing that. And we were talking to the ML conversation earlier today that they should make some will be making some modifications to the plan to make sure that nothing would preclude that access. So we are working to get it done. It may not be done in the next month, but we're going to make sure that we continue to work towards that, and that the plan would accommodate that access point.
That would be great.
The village too, Mike, this is Don.
Hi, Don.
Hi, Michael. The village does have the availability of tools to make that happen if in fact we felt it was essential. So in the future, looking down the road, there would be a way to accomplish this if the village thought it was critical to the project.
Perfect. Thank you, Don.
Sure.
Any more? Well, this has already been voted on, so I guess adjournment would be next. Oh, you know what?
No, it hasn't.
No,
You didn't vote yet.
You
It
have
was
a
the
first and second.
Right. You were in discussion, so you do need to have the roll call vote.
For
The PUD.
The PUD.
Oh, we are still in discussion. All right, let's do a roll call vote for the PUD. Sorry.
Love you. I love you more.
Trustee Meritato?
Yes.
Trustee Pojek?
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder?
Yes.
President Jackson? Yes. Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Sullivan?
Yes.
And Trustee Light?
Yes, I have a lot of notes on my table here. Yes.
Like, you also have to ask if, I doubt there's anybody in the public, but procedurally, if we haven't asked yet, I can't
One
recall.
more check. Well, we'll move that PUD to the board with a recommendation concur. And then I will go ahead and bring on public discussion of anything else we have. Anybody? Mike?
If there's anyone on the public, please raise your hand virtually. I don't see anyone downstairs in the Floyd Brown room, which we are set up for the public.
And again, nothing through email.
Perfect, and on to adjournment then. Trustee Sullivan?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Who seconded?
I did, Chester.
Thank you. Trustee Pojek,
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
President Jackson, Yes. Trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
Trustee Sullivan.
Yes, and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
You too.
Trustee Light
Yes, and Merry Christmas.
and Trustee Meritato.
Yes.
Okay, your Christmases can go now.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, people. Thank you, everybody.